Welcome back to the Fingerguns podcast. I'm your host, Harper.
And I am also your host, AJ.
I think we could win an award for the most awkward, intro ever.
Right?
Okay. God. Anyway, we're just going to get right into it because our intro was so painfully awkward.
Yeah, we're not going to do it. We're going to be talking about stage to film adaptations and also film to stage adaptations.
Okay. But specifically, we are doing musicals. We know there's a big, there's Shakespeare, there's famous playwrights and stuff, but we are only going to focus on musicals because that is too much to cover in one of these episodes. So, yeah. Something that we want you guys to know, I really like Broadway. I love musicals, and so I'm more familiar with some of the musical adaptations, and he's more familiar with some of the film adaptations, so we hope we can give you a pretty well-rounded view of this subject.
Yeah, I'm not a huge musical person.
I am. It is my lifelong regret that I cannot sing.
You can sing.
Okay, I'm just going to dispel this once and for all. Yes, I can sing. The problem with me is that I have a weird voice, and so I can't...
You don't have a weird voice.
I do have a weird voice. I can't sing along because most, parts are, too high or too low, and it's just this awkward range where I can sing. But you can sing.
No, I cannot.
Okay.
I can't.
Well, AJ has this list that intimidated me, so I'm just going to give him the go-ahead. Go with the list. Go.
Okay, so I have a list of good stage-to-film adaptations and bad stage-to-film adaptations. So let's start off with West Side Story.
I'm going to come off and say that I don't know that much about West Side Story. I know a few songs, and I had to do, some projects with it. But I don't know. I never really got into it, although I do love the dancing.
That West Side Story has amazing choreography.
Yes.
And it's pretty interesting, just because it's a retelling of Romeo and Juliet,
that, yeah.
but it has a twist.
Uh-huh.
So interesting. And I like how they talk about
racial issues.
Yeah.
All that. Yes, I love the commentary in it. You're right. This was a very good stage to film adaptation because I feel a lot of times when you're on stage, the dancing is a lot more coherent. But with film, there's a lot of different angles and you have to capture all of that. And it's and in films, you can't just do a dead shot of just people dancing. And it's not like theater. So I feel the way they did those big group dancing was filmed very well.
Yeah. Particularly the America.
That was...
the way that they adapted that scene. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What are your thoughts on The Sound of Music?
I love The Sound of Music. I don't know if they're still on Broadway. I feel it's such an old...
I don't feel they are.
Yeah, I feel it's such an old musical that... I feel most of us have only seen the movie adaptation, which was an amazing adaptation, by the way.
They showed it to us in music class.
And I love it. And I love that they showed it to us. And it's amazing. But I would have liked to see it on Broadway, see what that's like.
Well, you know that a lot of people didn't like it when it came out?
Yeah.
Because it was people thought it was really corny, and they were oh, it's too happy to be about Nazis and stuff.
But I think that's kind of the point, right?
I mean, yeah.
It's this family, and this is what they're doing, and it just so happens that they were put in this situation. And I think it really captures how many people's lives were ruined because of the war.
Yeah.
And I like that they didn't put all the focus on the war because it really shows a good portrait of this family and how people were affected and how life changed for them, So I don't... Yeah. I understand the concerns, but I think it was okay.
Yeah. Okay. I know that you really like this musical, Chicago.
Oh, I love Chicago. It was inspired by a real murder scandal in the 20s.
I heard about that. Yeah.
I love that musical, and I feel it was an amazing film adaptation.
Yeah, and it was it was interesting because the way that the musical numbers kind of happen in the film, it's in a certain style.
Yes.
I don't remember the certain name, but it's in the style where it's the musical numbers are happening in the characters' heads.
Yeah.
It's not playing out in real life. It's imagination thing.
So it makes
which
it
I thought
more
was, like,
realistic. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the cell block tango scene.
That sold it for me. That after watching
Yeah.
the scene, I was like, okay, I don't care what else they do in this movie. This is amazing. I could watch that scene forever.
Yeah, and that director, Rob Marshall, has done other musical adaptations before. Like, he did Into the Woods.
Yeah. Oh.
Which I think was I liked
Mixed
it.
feelings.
I liked that adaptation.
I thought the movie was gonna end, and then I've never listened to a musical before that. I liked the casting and everything. I just feel like it went off in weird directions after like Cinderella's wedding, and I know that's kind of the point, but I don't know. I feel like just the way they structured the movie was a bit odd, but I still think they had like good moments. But sorry, go on.
So Rob Marshall did Into the Woods, and he did the Mary Poppins sequel, Mary Poppins Returns. And he also did the infamous Cats.
How can you make such good movies and then also such bad movies?
Right?
Because, okay, Chicago was a work of art. Into the Woods had its moments that I didn't love, but overall the execution was really good. And then Mary Poppins Returns was whimsical and lovely and beautiful. And then there's Cats, which is like if my sleep paralysis demon decided to like take me into its own world, and it's like, oh.
Oh my god, a nightmare.
So I guess this is a good segue into Cats. Did you even watch the whole movie? Because I couldn't.
I watched the trailer.
I also did that.
That was the only thing I watched.
I also watched that scene because I read about it on like BuzzFeed, the most reliable news source. I read about that Rebel Wilson eating cockroaches with human faces. I watched that.
Oh my god.
I think I cried
That's a
for
scene?
3 hours after that to detox.
That is not
That's
a
a scene. It's a
It
scene.
is?
You need to go watch it after this.
The song that was in the trailer, the memory.
Oh, that's their big song. Yeah.
And Jennifer Hudson was singing that. That's the only good part about it.
Well, I feel like that was one of the only good songs from the original musical. I never loved Cats. I thought I would like it because it's about cats, and I love cats, and I love musicals. I didn't really like it, but Memory was just such a big hit, and Jennifer Hudson has the voice of an angel, so they couldn't ruin that song with her voice.
What a nightmare. So that's
I
like
can't think about
the
Cats.
when you think about a bad stage to film adaptation, Cats is like your number one example.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of others that we're going to talk about right now.
Okay.
So Rent, I heard that was a really bad stage to film adaptation.
I need to talk about Rent. I'm sorry. Okay, so Rent was my absolute favorite musical because I loved it. And I did listen to the movie recording first, which was good. And then I listened to the original and I was like, whoa, this is more amazing. So I think what I have to say, and I'll keep this short because I could, again, talk about this forever. The movie was okay. I think they did a lot of fan service with Rosario Dawson's Mimi character. And I feel like they didn't flesh her out as well as I would have liked. They cut out a lot of good songs, which I know they have to do, but they were really good songs. I don't know. I just feel like the movie adaptation was okay.
Wait, is Idina Menzel in Rent?
Yes, she is.
She's in Wicked, for those of you who don't know. Super famous, like kind of a Wizard of Oz spin-off. And they're going to adapt that into a movie.
We'll see how that
which
goes.
Worries me.
Worries me as well. So we're going to be talking about film to stage adaptations now. And these are an interesting type of musical because a lot of people have a lot of bias towards them. But sometimes they actually turn out to be really, really good. So
I am one of those people that have bias against
I
them.
was too.
I think it's like, well, let's talk about some examples. So, Mean Girls.
No, you go ahead first.
No, you go.
But I've been going. Okay.
Harper.
Okay. Okay. Wow, did they do a good job. And I was so shocked that they did such a good job with it. They, like, expanded the movie, and they added all this nuance to the characters, and the songs were super catchy, and I watched a few of their live performances like on YouTube because I'm poor, and uh, it was really good. Like, there's good commentary. They really brought out the messages that the original movie wanted to do with all the humor. They kept all the original, like, iconic parts of the movie that we loved. They added more, and the lyrics were fun. The characters were more fleshed out. I loved it. I loved that musical.
I think it's good because it was like made by Tina Fey. She wrote the movie, and she wrote the musical too, which is like good. I mean, yeah, personally, well, it's just like I have a bias there because I think it completely it changes like the feeling kind of. I don't know. To me, it does. It's just a different experience,
Sure.
like on film versus on stage.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel mostly the same way about Heathers. I loved the movie.
And I love the musical.
Heathers is there's a word, and I don't know how to say it, but it's like macabre.
Macabre.
Macabre. What?
Macabre.
Macabre?
Yes.
Macabre.
Macabre.
I'm just gonna use a different word. It's very heavy.
Macabre. It's because it's French.
Heavy, just to be safe. It's a simpler word for me. I don't know English.
But did you hear me tell you that macabre is French, which is why it's pronounced like that?
I thought it was macabre.
I guess. But no.
Macabre, heavy, whatever. It's a very, like, heavy film because it literally deals with, like, murder, but also, like, it's weird. And then I feel like the musical kind of has that too, but it's, like, it's more, like, lighthearted and cheery because it's, like, welcome to my candy store. Like, it's, like...
Well, the genre is black
Different
comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the official name subgenre for it, and so I
Yeah.
get it. I liked the musical a lot more because it had a much more hopeful ending. It really highlighted the lessons more. I feel like with musicals, the thing is you can sing a song and then it doesn't have to be overt, but then people get the message, Like they get the whole message because that's your finale. Whereas with film, you kind of have to be more subtle. So I feel like Heathers was able to deliver that message in less of a dark way.
The movie ending was, like, jaw-dropping.
Yeah, it wasn't like a pleasant thing. Whereas Heathers kind of reined that in, and then they had this, like, good ending that sort of made you feel good after all that murder.
There are pros and cons to stage and film. Like, there's different pluses for each one,
Yes. That's what
Like
pros
for-
and cons mean.
Okay, you know what? So the pros of theater are, like, when it's on the stage, it's much more intimate. And, I mean, like, just, like, watching choreography happen on the stage, it's, like... I mean, there can be cool choreography in film, but, like, watching it just, like, happen before you, it's different. It's a lot cooler.
It's a lot more interactive almost because, well, first of all, I feel like it's very impressive because you can't mess up. And you have to do this, like, just from the actor's perspective, you can't mess up. You have to act, sing, and dance, which is amazing all in itself. You have to be able to have the same energy after performing this night after night, day after day, for weeks, maybe even months. It's a unique experience, and everyone should watch a live show if they can. Yeah.
Just very cool experience. But film also has its pros, too. You have, like, a larger scope.
Yes.
Like, take, for example, like, West Side Story, like, the America scene. There's so many... It was, like, shot at, like, so many angles, and, like... In the dance, there's still, like, really cool choreography that's being shown, but it's, like...
I mean...
much more grand.
Yeah. At the end of the day...
Yeah.
Film is still art. Theater is still art. And so I think it's just different mediums. And yeah, it's just different. I think you can't really say one's better than the other. You could say certain projects were meant for one and not that great on the other. But at the end of the day, they're both like forms of art. And I think that's why, like if let's say you're a painter and I'm a sculptor and we're trying to form the same thing. We're not going to be able to do it the exact same way because we're working with different things, but we can both create something that conveys that same spectrum of emotion and something beautiful. And I think that's kind of like theater and film, and just being able to appreciate both is very important.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's all that we have for today.
Yes, it is. Do we have any general announcements? I feel like we don't.
No, we don't.
I guess you guys can DM our account if you have any questions, and we will do our best to answer them, because I have no idea how to keep that little Q&A story up, and I want to keep posting. And I think that's about it for me.
We'll talk to you guys next week.
If we're not dead by then. Okay, bye.
Bye.